Hi everyone, welcome to another On the Buses question time. You're all having a good start to the week. Just to remind people that at the end of this week, there's a On the Buses walking locations tour down in Bournemouth for over 2 days on Saturday and Sunday. You're welcome to come along, £15 a ticket. If you are coming along and you haven't bought your ticket yet and you're going to pay on the day, just look for me. I'll be outside the station holding this up. That's just a sign so you'll know that it's me. So I'll be holding this sign, as I say, outside the station. It'll be a locations tour covering about 100 filming locations and around Bournemouth and all 3 films. Hi, Limey. Hi, Neil, sorry. Yeah, that's good. You know what to do. Just pop along to the to Elstree Bournemouth on Saturday, Sunday. It's £15 for the whole weekend, so that gets you 2 locations tours around Bournemouth. One's they're going to be quite long walks, so bring comfortable walking shoes if you're coming. So you know what to do. If you've got any questions, post them up in the box there, and I'll see them as soon as I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen, or just put up my email address for anyone who's wanting to contact me about tickets. Just they let you know you won't get a reply if you contact me anytime after 4 o'clock on Wednesday. That'll be like your cut-off point for being able to reserve tickets through my email address. But you can come down and pay on the day if that's what you want to do. I think most people here are in the UK, so just an added little bit as well. If any of you were watching on the buses today, the football match, a lot of people always tend to ask where the football pitch was, where they actually are playing football. And that is actually, and now our Sainsbury's there are. Sainsbury's Superstore is actually right where, and its car park is right where the football pitch was. Neil, on Saturday it'll be 12 o'clock at Elstree and Bournemouth train station. Just outside there, I'll be standing. So yeah, the filming location that you would have seen today predominantly was the football pitch was actually at East Dulwich. So Dog Kennel Road, East Dulwich, there's a Sainsbury's Superstore and car park there. That was actually where the football pitch was. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 12 noon. Yeah, our line's David, but there will be other ones. Hopefully, probably it won't be Bournemouth where the next one will be. It might be maybe Lambeth or something like that, or maybe Peckham, or something like that. So I'm not exactly sure where the next one will be yet. I've not thought that far ahead yet, if you see what I mean. And if you are coming and you've got any of my books that you want, if you've got books of mine and you want me to sign them, I'll just bring your books along and I'll be happy to sign them on the day. Any in my books that you've got there as well. And I will have a collection of badges as well that I've made specially for the event, or have some of them if anybody wants to buy them. Yeah, Bob McNabb's still alive. I think he lives in the. I think I'm right in saying that he lives in the States now. Because predominantly, I think he ended his football career at somewhere like New York Cosmos or some old school when the Americans had the first round of our football league. And you had the likes of Pelé playing over there for New York Cosmos and all that. I think it was a club like that he played for in the late 70s. And that's where he ended his career. So I think he must have settled in the States. So keep your questions coming in. You got questions about on the buses? I'm here to answer them, or any questions about the walking tour that was just mentioned there. If you do fancy coming on both the days and you live in the London area, then it's possible to just travel home after the first day on the Saturday and then travel back up on the Sunday for the second tour. You should be able to get away without having to stay in a hotel like I'm going to be doing in Boreham Wood. Yeah, I think they went for him because he had a bit of media experience in front of the cameras and all of that. I do believe he might have been a pundit for ITV's 1970 World Cup coverage. So he had already sort of like been well versed in front of cameras and all of that. So I suppose that's why they picked him. And I do believe at the time that episode was on, he was out with an Achilles injury or something like that. Nah, I'm travelling down on the Wednesday night, Neil. Yeah, that's a plan, David. But as I say, at the moment, it's still a little bit too early to say. I normally start the wheels in motion for an event or start the organising around about early December or something like that. So it's normally around about December time where I'll probably break the news of the dates and all of that if there is going to be one. Yeah, I'm going down a little bit earlier, Neil, for the simple reason I'm going to be going around and doing videos and photographing locations so that I can add to the database of filming locations where I've got a then and now photograph of. I hope to photograph about 50 more locations and do videos as well, which I will end up adding to the channel as well, videos through time. So locations that I go to that have got a lot of locations in an area, I will do videos of those areas. If you haven't subscribed, just subscribe to the channel as well. You'll get all notifications whenever I'm going live, like tonight, and other such like things, and all the videos when they're going up and all that. No, not that. They're all the locations, Neil, are in Boreham Wood. They're all locations from the films and from the three spin-off films. I know where they all are, all these locations. It's just a matter of getting a photograph so that I can add them, like probably when I come back from the walking tour next Monday. Shortly after that, I'll be starting to run through on my Facebook channel of every known filming location, and I'll be running through them probably by the end of September. So that means I've got a new batch of ones to add in there. No, it's been fine, Ben. I know where that is. Don't worry about that. That'll be covered at the walking tour on the Sunday as well, on the Saturday as well. That location, Ben. As I say, I don't like to be boast or anything, but mine's is the biggest database of filming locations in the world. I mean, all told, I've got like where I know that they are, but a lot of those I haven't been able to get to photograph yet because of the COVID situation and all of that. There's probably a total now. I've probably got a total of about 500 filming locations from on the buses. But where that is, that's in Boreham Wood as well. Obviously, it would be with it. That's where the films were made. The story behind that, where it was, Ben. Borehamwood, obviously, where the films were made. The films were made in at the Elstree studios that stand there now. Not the Elstree studios that EastEnders has made at. That's a different complex in Borehamwood. This is the actual film studios where the likes of Star Wars and all that was made, and Indiana Jones and such like. And they filmed Strictly there now as well. And they did do Big Brother for a few years. But those studios there is where the On the Buses films were made. But up until 1970, if you head east from that studio complex, there was a far bigger studio complex, which was the British MGM studios. That's where they filmed a lot of ITC series. They filmed Ivanhoe there. They had a castle, an actual castle built as a set for Ivanhoe. They made other films there, like Where Eagles Dare, Cleopatra, I think it was. They're all made at the British MGM studios, which is on Elstree Way. And but sadly, they got knocked down. They closed, just about December 1970. Around that time, the Tory government that was in, they wanted to put on a super tax for overseas film companies that were making films in the UK. That was one of those was MGM, and they balked at the idea of having to pay this super tax. So they closed down that studio in Elstree Way, and where you see Stan knocking down the what you believe it to be the depot was actually a soundstage 4 at MGM Studios. Now, as I say, the studios closed in 1970, but they were still standing come when they were filming the end of On the Buses in 73, but they had the demolishers in. So they took the opportunity then to film the scene with Stan operating the. It wouldn't have been him operating it. You would have seen him with the controls, and then they would have had a professional demolisher and doing the actual swinging of the ball and all that, knocking down the soundstage. And it does authentically look like the depot that they used in the actual film, because it was a soundstage as the depot was in the 3 films. That was soundstage 5 at the Elstree Studios that remains, but that's been demolished as well. Tesco's stands there now, but the one at MGM that you see getting knocked down, that was soundstage 4 at MGM Studios. They've been long since demolished now, and there's it's like a processing plant, a food processing plant, a place that storehouses as well for, I think Sainsbury's were there for a while, and they took all the delivery from there to the stores and all that. So that's where that has been. It's tricky to actually pinpoint exactly where it is, but you can do it if you just need to go by things that were there when the studios were there, and you can match up near enough accurately exactly where that soundstage 4 was that got knocked down. Yeah, it wasn't Ben. It wasn't exactly behind the Tesco's. It was sort of like behind left, so over to the as you stand in front of it. If you're looking at Tesco's, it was over to the left-hand side, up the back of the Tesco's. So not really directly behind it, but sort of like in our southwesterly direction from the Tesco. So you got any questions about On the Buses, just post them up and I'll answer them for you as soon as I see them. Can be about filming locations, the cast, the crew, the episodes, the films, or anything to do with the filming locations, anything like that, just ask away, or anything to do with my books. Just post your questions up on the screen and I'll answer them as soon as I see them. Just feel free as well while you're here to subscribe to the channel. The more subscribers, the better. There was, I do, as people may well know me through here, I do spend a lot of time on the likes of Facebooks and yeah, that's right. That was oh Christ. I'm not sure that there are, but the best place to try is places like Rex Features, but someone may have posted one up on Facebook a while back of a military service warrior vet. Yeah, I know it was Mr. Bronson. The actor's name was, oh Christ, oh, bugs me when I forget names like that. With the old age, it happens, doesn't it? Oh Christ Almighty! Yeah, that's it. Cheers, Demon Man. Of course it was. Um, Yeah, as I say, probably the best place to look is places like Rex Features for photos like that. They might have got hold of it and obviously put their own sort of like stamp on it, and then you have to pay to view it or use it in any way like that. There was a random one, I'm sure, that turned up on Facebook of him in military service. That's obviously when he done his national service, like. Yeah, and he also played Hitler. I think he's the only person that's played Hitler either twice or three times in different films, if you know what I mean. So yeah, keep your questions coming in, and I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen. And as I say, anyone that's interested in attending the walking tour I was talking about earlier on Sunday, Saturday, and Sunday, later this week, my email address is up in amongst the posts there. Just look for it posted under on the buses database. Yeah, exactly that. Demon Dan is very much very raw. I know my colleague who organises the events been to see has been to see useless with names now. Kim Benwell, his widow, and she'll only be able to talk on a one-to-one basis, but she doesn't feel up to doing any public appearances and anything like that, like coming to events or anything, because it's still very upsetting for us to talk about. So, which is understandable, really. So keep your questions coming in. Anything to do with on the buses? Can be about the actors, the actresses, or the production side of things, or the production crews, or anything like that, or anything to do with my books or the event that I've got coming up at the weekend. Well, they never really had any locations anyway, from what I remember of it then. I don't think the water was all mostly set nearly entirely in the actual, exactly, yeah, that's what I'm saying, Demon Dan. It was all mainly studio based anyway. For anyone that's going to cover a whole load of filming locations to the nth degree, to any great detail, they've got to be a big, massive fan of something to put all your time into those sorts of things. Let's see, Neil. It's hard. It's a hard one to say because you get locations that do change in every area really. So it's not really a case of where South London's changed more than the North London locations, if you know what I mean. I mean, you look at the depot at Lordship Lane at Wood Green that they filmed at, that's totally gone now. So that's a big change. But there's ones down in South London where you've got big changes as well. There's one where you see the bus passing the church. Church has absolutely been demolished now. So it's not really um, it's sort of like it's not north or south that's changed in general more than the one or the other. You see what I mean? It's both about level, I would say. No, I think, Graham, the thing with Bob, obviously, the struggle came around about, obviously, from about 86, 87, sometime around then, about 87. It really kicked in his struggles after he had done Christmas pantomime and all that. 87 was when his struggles really kicked in then, due to lack of work. And obviously, anyone that will tell you that somebody that's sort of like suffering from like mental sort of thingies. They actually shut themselves off, if you know what I mean. So I think Anna said that she couldn't get hold of them for God knows how long as well. So people might have been trying to contact them, but they shut themselves off. The shutters come down, so to speak. So I mean, Reg might have tried to support them or and such like. I mean, obviously some form of help probably did come in the terms of doing the comeback of on the buses, back on the buses might have been a side thought of helping Bob out as well, but obviously that fell by the wayside as well. But basically, I would say it wouldn't really have mattered really because once when you're in this mindset and the shutters come down, you just block out everything basically. Sadly, that's the way that things happen when you're struggling mentally, really. More. Nah, Reg didn't drive that bus on the skid pan. He did drive it on the skid pan a few years earlier because he had to do that to pass his get his PSV license. But in the film, no, he didn't. I mean, there's an easy way of telling that you know it wasn't him that did it for the film because you can see it's the old moving picture thing. They do it like there's just a green board, so he would have been moving the steering wheel in the studio and all would have been a moving back projection to make it look like the bus is actually moving, but the bus would have been stationary with Reg just pulling on the steering wheel like this. It was an actual professional bus driver that done that scene of on the skid pan in the film. Yeah, there's about Warrior Vet. There's about I do believe there's about four buses um, that are still in existence. One I know does the rounds in museums as the one that they used in on the omnibuses, which was an AEC bus. That was the old 1920s bus. That is still in pristine condition. That's been preserved. There's a bus from the TV series. I think it's AV811F. It might very well be preserved in France somewhere. There's another bus from the films that's been preserved by someone, I think it is in Derbyshire or something like that, which turns up in rally bus conventions and all of that. That's been preserved. And there's one over in the States, I do believe it's been converted into something like a coffee shop or something like that. I think it's somewhere in Santa Monica or something like that. I think at that time a full film was probably out of the question, because films really take much more money to get to happen. And if you remember around that time, that was, I think, there was a bit of a real sort of like dip in the film industry. So who was going to back something from 20 years earlier? You know what I mean? Especially then around that time when the TV series was being touted as well. You got to remember that things that you're going through are sort of like a change into a more PC sort of like environment. So I can't really see that a film. They might have done a film with the TV series had it been like the earlier on the bus has been successful, but it was a TV series first, if you see what I mean. Yeah, but that was 17 years earlier, and that was Hammer. Wouldn't have been Hammer then. Wouldn't have been Hammer that we'd have taken on any new films, because Hammer were like in a hiatus just then. I don't know if they'd actually stopped making films for like they did through a long time until they got revived just in the last 5-10 years or something. But Hammer was sort of like out of the market. They weren't making films then at all, if you see what I mean. So so that's basically the reason why I would say as well. Yeah, definitely through Jakey Bear. Absolutely. I know that. If you look at the video that I've got up here with an interview in it, listen to that, and it rings through straight away. I've got another video somewhere. I'll always, but I do not know where it is. It was another interview done in the 1980s, and again that rings through straight away about how much he loved his stage work more than anything else. It's absolutely crystal clear. His TV credits dried up, right? So this is a way to look at it as well. After On the Bosses, he didn't work on TV again. Did depression kick in? No, it didn't. He carried on working copiously on stage up until the mid 1980s into sort of like 80s, early 1987. He had been highly active on stage. It was when his stage work, which he loved most of all, died up. That is when the depression kicked in. He never got depressed when he never done any TV work. He was as happy as Larry. Listen to the interviews that he done. The one that I've got on here was, I think, from 1978, and another one that I've got somewhere is 1981 or 82, something like the early 1980s. And both is happy as Larry, but he hasn't been in any TV roles. So most definitely, that's what he loved more than anything else was stage work. If you listen to the interview that's on the channel here, go and listen to it, because you can hear him. I think to quote all and as many words he says. After his wife, the thing that he loved most of all was stage work. And then that as well, he's also asked what was his plans for the future. And his plans for the future, he said, was to do more stage work and to direct some more stage shows. He never said TV work, even though he had been out of TV for 5 years by that time. It was more stage work. So that says it all. It really does. Many people, many fans make the error of thinking because On the Buses was his big success, that is what he loved most, which is just not true. They think he got depressed because he wasn't getting any TV work. It's just not true, because he carried on working on stage for a good 14 years after On the Buses ended. So keep your posts coming in. I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen. I've got clips of it in my book, A to Z. It's in my book there. I'll see if I can rig out a bit just as a bit of evidence, just so that you know you get the basic gist of what was actually in the interview. It was a Kirkcaldy radio station that he was interviewed for in 1981, I do believe. VRN radio in Kirkcaldy. Now, that was John Murray he was speaking to there. So the one that's on there, and the John Hannam one, he does say about how tremendous his early stage work was, like Blitz, called it tremendous and was a magical experience. And Instant Marriage, he speaks very fondly of as well. It just comes through when you're listening to him talking. He comes alive when he's talking about his stage work and everything like that. Time moves on, Dan, I suppose, really. I mean, he did do a lot of sort of like, what's the word for it? Avant-garde, I think you could call it, stage work. So a lot of those sorts of things, like the pajama tops and all of that, were becoming less and less and less. There was a new breed of actors coming through as well. So it's probably a combination of both of those things, where it just sort of like shoved Bob out to the side, almost like. Yeah, the snookerist. Yeah, we've seen that, gets bashed with a tray. Yeah, James. I don't think it was really sort of like something that was ever going to happen, for the way that things came about, really, in terms of how his health let him down. And he had gone into like semi-retirement from like around about the late 70s, early 80s, where he had more health issues, such like. Um, Now, the big driving force behind a lot of his success was Ronnie Wolf and Ronnie Chesney, who were on to writing other things then. They were then writing series for the Just My Dear and its spin-off series as well. So they were active in other things as well. That's why I do believe that Reg went and done his Down the Gate, which was a totally different set of writers that they had there, which ran from about 75 to 76 or something like that. And then around that time is when he sort of like went into, he'd done a bit where he was like doing a one-man show on cruise ships and all of that. And then by the early 1980s, his health worsened and he went into semi-retirement because he had a more serious heart attack and a series of strokes. That's why he tended to take. That's why he went and took up painting and such like. As for the don't drink the water, and I've said this before. Nah, not really. It's just basically about Blakey, really, and there's no way that the rest of the characters are just not funny enough for me. For me, I'm tend to drawn towards the sitcoms with a whole host of funny characters. So that's like On the Buses, Man About the House, um, Only Fools and Horses, Still Game. And you get the picture. They've got a big porridge. They've got a big range of funny characters. Whereas Don't Drink the Water was Blakey, and that was it. And Blakey, you only it's too much wanting to see him and his role back at the depot and all of that. He was already in the he had already been in the production side of things, Neil. He had already been in the production side and produced and directed his own shows. He done one with David Jason, I do believe, or David Jason taps on it in his book that he brought out recently. Don't think the pair of them really seen eye to eye. I can't quite remember what the name of the stage show was. I'd know it if I've seen it again, but I know I'm not sure that they saw eye to eye, but he did do his own sort of like production side of things, directing stage shows as well. So they've already done that. No, I agree. I mean, and I don't hear any. I know that a few years back when I've done the helped co-organise the official Holiday on the Buses cast reunion event at Prestatyn. We had Doris's daughters there, and they said how well Doris got on with Will Rambo. They said they had a great chemistry together. They got on really well together. Now, Graham, that's toss about Harry Corbett. I've been on the Steptoe and Son site and all of that, and putting people out about that. It's total tosh about Harry Corbett and Wilf Rambo. It's a total invention on behalf of the people who wanted to make a docudrama out of it. Just don't believe it, and it's because it's yeah, that's right, Dan. That's it, darling, Mr. London. The Bob Grant David Jason played. Yeah, the Harry Corbett thing is a whole load of tosh. I know that by speaking to Susanna Corbett, who was Harry's daughter, who is Harry's daughter, and the writers as well said exactly the same. You don't work with somebody for 20 odd years and hate them, and you don't and you don't stand there and you don't break down in tears when you're speaking about this person after they've just passed away. Sorry, that doesn't happen. That is all fueled by that docudrama that they done, which tried saying that they hated each other, which is total tosh. I know that because, as I say, at one of the, I went to a Carry On event and Susanna Corbett was there, and I had about 10 minutes sitting and I talked to her over a drink. And she said as well, it was total nonsense. She remembers that Wilf used to come round and visit them at their flat in Pimlico or something. She remembers sitting on Wilf's knee and all of that and things, and said that they got on fine together. They were just two totally different people. No, James, I think it would have suffered the same fate as Don't Drink the Water, basically, because it would have been exactly the same. Not unless you've got a whole load of, and it's not exactly a fun scenario. It would have been too hard to do anyway, because where would you get a set with moving cars on a production line or anything like that? It would be far too hard a thing to recreate in the studio, if you see what I mean. So it's the whole thing straight away is just too difficult to recreate, if you see what I mean. Yeah, another thing going back to that, Graham, another thing that they touted off as using it as proof that they hated each other was, I think it was in 1980s, they had done a tour of Australia, of Steptoe and Son. They had done a tour, and the docudrama claimed they hated each other so much they couldn't even face travelling back on the same flight, which is again total fabrication and nonsense. The reason they didn't travel back on the same flights for that trip was Harry H was travelling back, I think, to the UK for a family wedding, while Wilf was travelling to Sri Lanka. So they were going in two totally different directions. So why would they be on the same plane? That's the kind of thing that you get from these sort of like conspiracist theorists. They don't think things through logically, and they don't think about the actual facts. Now, Dave, there's plenty still around in terms of the lesser crew, but the only main crew, the only main cast members is Anna, who's still alive. How many people played more than one character? Well, John Lyons, he was in several episodes, played different characters. Terry Duggan, Anna's husband, he played several different characters. You had Michael Slater, he played different characters. Let's see. I know there's definitely more. Madeline Mills, that's 4. Ursula Mohan's 5. It's not just that, Graham, but I think the last thing, I think it was a few months before Harry H passed away, they actually worked together on a coffee advert. If you hated someone's guts, you would say, nah, don't want to do it. I'm not working with that person. Hating somebody is what happened between James Bolam and Rodney Bewes. They cut ties and they didn't work together again after the Likely Lads film. That is hating each other. Madeline Mills passed away sadly in about, I think it was 2001. She had cancer. Well, the reason, Mike, that they done that was just sort of like they knew it's like the Carry On films. They knew the actors and actresses that they could cross that they really liked, and they knew what quality they were getting from them. And if they had a part that needed filling, they would sooner go with a actor or actress that they really knew they could cross rather than just plumping for another one just because they haven't used them before. If you see what I mean. Yeah, exactly, Dan. And it's really quite frustrating, really. I mean, people still cling to that as well about them hating each other as well, when the actual writers themselves, who knew them better than anybody, said all along that there wasn't any hatred there. So who should I believe? Writers that actually worked with them for 2 decades, or some jumped up little Herbert who wanted to make a name for himself doing a docudrama. I know who I would rather listen to. It was all right, but I preferred Leonard Rossiter and Rise and Damp, really, to be honest. It was okay, though, but I wouldn't go mad crazy about it, but it was certainly very watchable. Again, in one of the interviews of James, Bob said he didn't bother about being typecast or anything like that. He was totally okay with that. He said when you, in that industry, his motto, his thoughts on it was, you take the jobs when you come along and think about the consequences later. And he didn't bother about being typecast. That's what how Bob seen things. And this was like 5 years after On the Buses had finished, so it still wasn't bothering them then. Like people tend to think, oh, it really bothered Bob when he didn't work on telly and all that. Nah, stage is what he loved doing, and that was still there, and it was very copiously coming to him, the stage work around that, around what, for 15, nearly 15 years after On the Buses had finished. And even after he had his first breakdown, he had another little boost again. If you check out, he still went on to do more stage work, if you see what I mean, even in the 90s and the mid to late 1990s. No, as you say, Stuart. I mean, I think they like you're saying, there's no way there was hate there. It was obviously they came very. They would have had fallouts. I'm not saying that they were all lovey dovey and it was a bosom buddy sort of thing. Because, like I said earlier, there were two totally different types of people. Totally different types of people. I think Wilf was a conservative and Harry H. Corbett was a staunch Labour man. So that was one thing that they had that was sort of like made them sort of like with different opinions. One of them was a classically trained actor, the other one not so. So I mean, it's so there was lots of things there, but they well, I think the writers say they were always professional together. If you know what I mean, they had like worked together professionally. I mean, I think towards the end of Steptoe and Son, um, Harry H perhaps wanted to do other things. He wanted to break away from playing Harold, but that's not Wilf's issue. It really is. That's just sort of like a bit of typecasting on the behalf of Harry H, I suppose. But that wasn't to say that that was Wilf's fault, if you see what I mean, which it obviously wasn't. But people see that tension that was sort of like there for other reasons and automatically try and portray it as hate, which wasn't the case. Yeah, exactly, Dan. Exactly. And it's really sad when they do that, really. It's total misrepresentation of the facts. Nah, your mate's wrong, I'm afraid, Mo. Went to work in a car factory in the Midlands. Maybe your mate's getting confused thinking that he went to work because he had a different bus company in the films, but the films are in no way connected to the TV series. Forget trying to connect to TV series and the films because there's no connection there whatsoever. TV series is owned by TV series is owned by London Weekend. The films are owned by Hammer. Two totally different entities, so they needed to have different storylines and all of that. Different, they couldn't connect both together because it was totally different. One owned the copyright, and they wouldn't allow Hammer to use Luxton District because that was owned by copyright by LWT. If you see what I mean. So when the films came about to be made by Hammer, obviously they needed a new setting, a new bus depot, and because the writers were involved in the project and they owned the rights to the actual characters, it was fine for them to use the characters, but not the and the same premises was used in the TV series because that was copyright protected. I do now and again, Ben. I've never went this year. I've been to one last year. I went to a show, or the year before that, I think it was. So I'm not a avid fringe goer, if you see what I mean. Yeah, I think the reason behind that was LWT were very green behind the ears around that time. They'd only come into being in around about 1968, so they'd only been going a few months when they would have been writing up the contracts to on the buses. So they didn't know that it was going to be a big success either. So that was probably totally overlooked. Wasn't written into any contracts, so the door was left open for the Hammer to sneak in there when they did. Yeah, they're not so good, Neil, but it was just a sign of the times. Things were changing, you know what I mean? And they were a little bit more sort of like fluid as a cartoon, if you see what I mean, rather than the ones that were in the earlier series, you know, like series 2 up to series 6. So they're a little bit more polished as a cartoon, if you see what I mean. But they weren't so iconic, or is a word maybe, or so sort of like, maybe it's because of the characters have gone as well, so it might not be so much a cartoonish opening. It's just that you knew that things had changed. There was no Arthur, there was no Reg for the half of the series. Yeah, they do sort of like say it anyway, James. They already sort of like say it before it comes on. They say now comedy from a bygone era or something like that. It's time to go ahead down the depot. I think they say something like that. I think. I know they do it before Man About the House as well. I think they use that phrase like comedy from a bygone era. They even done it with Bless His House when Bless His House was being repeated. Favorite episodes? Favorite episodes is Brew It Yourself. My favourite film's the first film on the buses. I just prefer it set in the bus depot where they were meant to be. A lot of people sort of like frown and say, why not Holiday on the Buses? Well, that wasn't set in the depot. And it's very, to me, watching it as well, the last film, Holiday on the Buses, it's very sad to know that was the last time they were ever going to work together. So that took a bit of a tinge off it. It's not, I'm not saying it's a very funny film because it is, but it's just for those reasons, if you see what I mean. Cheers, Dave. Thanks for popping in and asking questions. Oh, that's a good one, Dan. Yeah, that would work well. I don't know. you could see sort of like Jack turning up in an episode of Only Fools and Horses as well. Maybe like another one who was sort of like trying to step on Dell's patch and sell some of his own stuff, if you know what I mean. Something like that, a little bit of a rival to him. Something like that I could see, Dan. Yeah, certainly was more. Done a lot of work for a great amount of work for charity as well, which a lot of people don't really know about him. He was a great man for his charity work. His wife as well was a lovely lady as well. I met her at my book launch in my first book and had a lovely chat with Hal. Sadly, she's passed away now as well. Yep, but it wasn't just Stephen though. Don't forget they never got Bob for that. This Is Your Life. Yeah, that's what I mean, Dan. Something like that, you know what I mean? Have him sort of like selling, stepping on his patch and trying to sell rival corny goods, if you know what I mean. So keep your questions coming in. Any questions on the buses? Anything to do with the cast, the crew, filming locations, anything to do with any of my books, or if you're interested in my walking tour that's taking place at the weekend, or 2 days of walking tours, you can just ask away here. Yeah, something to do with some church or something like that, if I remember rightly. I might have seen that. It might be on YouTube or something like that somewhere. The simple answer to that, Mo and Stuart, you both asked the same question within about 30 seconds. The part was always written for Doris Hare. Doris Hare was always going to play the mother, but Stuart Allen, who was producer of the first four series, Stuart Allen was a great help in casting in the show as well. So Stuart Allen was a very pivotal reason for On the Bus's success as well behind the scenes. He went to Doris's flat in Putney Bridge, where she lived at the time, offered her the role of mum on the buses. But she had to turn it down because it was at that time when they were about to start filming. She was going to be out of the country. Her husband was a phrenologist, somebody like a doctor who deals with brain trauma. They were going to be in Mexico. They'd already signed up to be at our seminar, so they had to bring in a replacement for the mum, and that was Cicely Coatnage that they got in for the part. But obviously, they didn't know that it was going to be a success. When they first started out, when they first started on the buses, it was only maybe perhaps going to be 7 episodes. But once it took off and it was a success, then a second series got commissioned. And by that time, Doris was back in the country, so they got Doris in for the remainder of On the Buses as was, if you see what I mean. So the part was basically the part was always going to be Doris's, if you see what I mean. So keep your questions coming in. Anything to do with On the Buses, the cast, the crew, any filming locations you wondered where anything was filmed, anything to do with the production side of things, ask away and I'll answer them for you as soon as I see them on the screen. So just to say again, if you're coming to the let's see, it wasn't really delved into the snookerist. The thing is, it was all serious. It revolved around Stan, like the butlers. So anything else was just a mere sort of like sideshow. So they never really dipped into it in any great detail. It wasn't really sort of like worried if there was any plot thingies. They do in one episode. I think Jack mentions about his sister, and they also mentions his mum or something like that as well. So you can read into what you will, who was actually living next door to him. Yeah, yeah, do believe Anna's from Durban in South Africa. Yeah, the series that did win the John Logie Baird Award in 1970 or 71, I think it was. The books that I've only got three of the four books that I've written. This was the first book, although it looks different now because this is our hardback, but it's only available in paperback now. But it's exactly the same type of book. It's a paperback now that you'll be able to see for it. This just covers everything in general, Dan. So, well, you won't get one with all the signatures that this one's got, and it's got tons and tons of signatures in it. Look at all those signatures. Just covers the writers, the episode synopsis, the main actors. It's got a little bit about filming locations. It's got a bit about the writers of the TV series. Then it's got sections on the films, film synopsis. And then at the back, it's got a whole big massive bit on the cast member in a A to Z format, telling you what their careers were and everything like that. So that's like that was the first book that came out in 2009, October 2009. Then came a quiz book. I haven't got one of them here to actually show you, but it speaks for itself. It's got like, I think it's got 1,000 questions in it, all about on the buses, various sections on various topics. Then you've got an A to Z of on the buses. Basically, this covers things in an A to Z format. Like, for example, I'll open up a page here for you. It's got things, everything that was mentioned in it, like look at this one there, like night duty, for example. I'll just read out what, so you get a basic idea of what it's like. Night duty, when Stan is placed on night duty by Inspector Blake, and the series 2 episode later again, it ruins his love life and alters his lifestyle. Night duty for Stan means dating a Clippy, called Doreen is out of the question, as she is on duty while Stan sleeps. And when she finishes his work is about to start. His eating habits are altered, as well as he eats his main meal of steak and kidney pudding and washes it down with a glass of milk and a milk stout at breakfast time after returning home from work, which doesn't go down well with Arthur, who has to make do with a lightly boiled egg. When Stan visits Doreen's house after breakfast, he is in for a shock. His best friend Jack has taken advantage of the situation by spending the night with Doreen, and so Stan's budding relationship with her ends, as do his run of night duty shifts. There's other bits in there like the makeup people. It's got more about the crew in this one as well, like all the crew that worked on it. It's got a little synopsis of their careers. And then finally in 2016, the film locations book. So this came out. This has got about 200 locations. So a lot more have been found since. But if you do it off and getting they just bear in mind that the filming locations are, the photos are in black and white. That's a necessity because there's about 400 or so photos in there. So also at the back, it's got a bit of the ones that got away. So sort of like cataloguing the locations that haven't been found yet. It's also got a section there listing the travel and trip suggestion. So it's got sort of like all of your Boreham Wood locations in there. So if you want to go to Boreham Wood, just look at that section and it'll list you all the locations there. And same, it's got ones for Wembley and other places. So that's the film locations book. Well, it's a bit puzzling, really. I mean, I've only really had two people, one person that's bought 2 tickets. But there are people, I don't know how many, who have said that they're going to just turn up on the day and buy the tickets then, pay on the day, if you see what I mean. But at present, I've only had one person that's bought 2 tickets. At present, you have contacted me at that email address I posted. The email address is here. So I would hope that there's going to be more than that for £15, if you know what I mean, for 2 tours, both lasting about both lasting about 2.5, 3 hours. Yeah, I've seen that interview, James. Yeah. Well, whether they are or not is really, Victor, it's not really of interest to me anyway, because there's just going to be another bog standard release of just the films, where they could easily be they should be putting extras on them, like commentaries and things like that, but there's nothing like that. So why bother is what I say. If you're going to do a Blu-ray release, then make it special, extra special, not just the picture quality, but make it another reason to want to buy them. Like, you know what I mean? Make it special with extras like commentaries on the films and all of that. Could be done. There's still people around that could supply stuff for that, but obviously they won't do it. I know they won't. Well, there's plenty. There's plenty that could do the commentaries. Dan, Anna's still with us. I know, like on the Carry On films, they have like Robert Ross sits in and does them. I'd be happy to sit in and do them as well with the knowledge that I've got about them. And the other films you've got, what's her name, Douglas, Douglas, who's in Mutiny on the Buses. You've got Sandra Blank and Kate Williams for Holiday on the Buses. So there's plenty of ones out there that could have input into these commentaries, if you know what I mean. There's Andrea Lawrence as well. There's, but it's only a small part. Some of the other ones only have really small parts, but there's certainly people in there who could do the commentaries. I mean, Kate and Sandra had big parts, and of course you had Maureen Sweeney, of course. Nah, James. The only things that are what you've got to remember is On the Buses ended in '73. Outtakes were not a marketable thing in those days. Outtakes only became marketable when you had shows like It'll Be All Right in the Night, which didn't really kick in until I think that started in 1977. And then people got wary of that and said, yeah, they might be wary, I'll keep hold of them. So, but they weren't keeping outtakes from 1973, for example. Just wasn't the done thing to do, especially for like your cheaper companies like Hammer and all that, who did a lot of their things on the cheap. So they weren't going to be keeping outtakes and things like that, I'm afraid. But there's certainly material that you could put on to create extras, if you know what I mean. I don't see the point of having a bog standard Blu-ray release and not adding more to it and trying making it an extra special release, if you see what I mean. Nah, I wouldn't say so at all, James. I mean, there's many episodes of things and all of that that are presumed missing, like the Likely Lads and all that. So if they can't get if full episodes of something have been lost, then they're not going to be finding sort of like 10-second clips of outtakes and things of On the Buses. In those days, as I said with Hammer as well, they were the sort that would it would just all get binned. Yeah, that's right, sure. It was going to be made by STV. STV, because at the time at STV there was a executive producer there called Brian Izzard, and Brian Izzard had actually directed Holiday on the Buses and a lot of the later episodes in Series 7 and part of Series 6, I think it was, that Brian Izzard produced. So he knew the show well from then. That's why the writers took it to STV, because they knew there was somebody that they could count on there who would have valued On the Buses, if you see what I mean. Sadly, it didn't come about because the funding fell through for it. Money was frittered away on other projects, and there just wasn't the money to put it into production. And now they didn't film a pilot episode or anything, although the actual script for the pilot episodes is in the back of Ronnie Wolf's book. So if you have a look here, that's the actual script for it there onwards. So that's that book there. If you want to look around, but it's hard to get hold of. Ronnie Wolf, My Life and Memoirs. That is pretty hard to get hold of that now because it is out of print. That's true as well, Dan. Yeah, a lot of the mistakes you can still see them because he just kept them in, and a lot of them stayed in. Favorite on the buses episode was Do It Yourself, Josh. I mean, you could go through all of the ones that the mistakes that were mainly left in, and some sort of like where they're sort of edited out, like I think it's I think it's a kids outing when they're blowing up the balloons, and then Olive goes to sit down on a seat that's got a balloon on it, but obviously she was already on the way of sitting down, but it gets cut out because you never see that bit. So that's a bit that obviously got cut and edited out. There's a bit where I think if you look closely, like it's a Christmas duty when he's playing with a remote control bus, and the lever of the remote control comes flying off, but he just kept that in. He just carried on and going back. I'll ride back here next Monday, Neil. I'll be travelling back up on the sleeper on this Sunday night from Houston. Yeah, there are one or two little patches of good. Just that the consistency fell off gradually. I would say from towards the end of Series 5. Hi, Adam. So it sort of like consistently fell away, basically. Series 6 was mainly all pretty decent, and then Series 7 had sort of like less decent and more just average, if you see what I mean. But the average of On the Buses were sort of like still On the Buses average was still better than, well, it is better than a lot of the comedies that are around today, if you see what I mean. So any questions about On the Buses, just post them up and I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen. Nah, just for the Euros, Neil, we've done them. Cheers, James. Thanks for popping in. Hi, Lee. Yeah, to me, Dan, the Michael leaving was maybe even bigger than Reg leaving because of the fact that once you lose one member of a really strong cast, then you know that as the end. Then, I mean, even sort of like the early, even the parts of the episodes that Reg was in, and Sirius um, 7, they were still missing Michael's input, if you see what I mean. So the effects were already immediately there, if you see what I mean. That was already the beginning of the end. As soon as they lost one of the big cast members, for me, a lot of people think mainly of Reg because he was the star of the show, but for me, the problems started even further back. You could go back to when the writers left at the end of Series 5, which was Ronnie Wolf and Ronnie Chesney. That was sort of like then when the depth really started to come in, then when they sort of chopped and changed the writers. And then you lost Michael, and then you lost Reg. So there was like a dip right after the writers left, from a gradual dip down to a big dip. I mean, it's obvious anyway when you're watching something or serious that it's not going to be the same as soon as you lose one of the main cast members. Don't care what it is. Could be Only Fools and Horses, could be Porridge, any of those. If they had to have made do with losing a cast member, then it's going to affect it big time. It's just like taking somebody like yeah, that's like Dan. I mentioned this before on another one of my question times about that. Bob mentions it again. It's in one of the interviews. LWT were happy, were still game for an 8th series, but the cast include called time on it. They didn't want to carry on to the point of where everyone was saying, "Oh, not that old rubbish again," and switching over. You know what I mean? So the writers, the actors that were left could see that they could feel the impact of losing Michael and then Reg had on the show. Cheers, Sam. Thanks for popping in. Yeah, I do it every so often more. Don't worry about that. I'm on sort of like I'll do these quite fairly regularly, these question times. So keep your questions coming in. If you want me to answer any of your questions, post them up on the box there and I'll answer them as soon as I see them. Yep. Have a good shift, Mo. So keep your posts coming in if you want any more questions answered about the anything to do with On the Buses, the cast, the crew, episodes, films, my books, my walking tour that's on this weekend. Well, 2 walking tours that are on this weekend actually. They'll cover about 100 film locations. Also go on to what was the old back lot at Elstree Studios. Hi, Kerry. Got any questions? Post them up and answer them for you, Kerry. As I say, anyone that's turning up on the walking tour on the at the weekend, just look out for me outside the station where that'll be starting from, and it's about noon. I'll be holding this sign here so you'll know who to come to. And I will be taking payment on the day, like as I say, for those who want to pay on the day for the tickets. The tour will be taken in on the Saturday. We'll be taken in Central and South East, Southeast and East Boreham Wood on the Saturday, and on the Sunday it'll be taken in North Boreham Wood and North East Boreham Wood on the Sunday. So post your any questions that you might have, post them up and I'll answer them for you as soon as I see them on the screen. I will be this weekend as well. I hope to be doing when I get time on the Thursday and Friday will be that'll be the days that will be doing all my photographing, and I'll be also doing videos, which I hope to add onto the channel at a later date. So they'll be from various locations around Boreham Wood. There was a series a few years back called On the Buses Comedy Classics. I mean, I think it was ITV Comedy Classics, and they done various shows. I think they had Ian Wright on it talking about the character Chalky. Ursula Mohan had some input into it. Don't know if Anna Karen did as well, talking about the show in general. I don't know if it was exactly behind the scenes stuff, but that's a documentary that I remember anyway about On the Buses. But not any sort of like other ones that I can think of. That would be maybe about 5 to 10 years ago that it came out. I think it was ITV Comedy Classics. It was a series about various ITV comedies from years gone by. I think they also done a Rise and Damp one. Yeah, that's good, Ray. As I say, just look for me at the station. I'll have this sign up, and you'll know where to come. I think, are you the one that's bought the 2 tickets already? I think you are, aren't you, Ray? And you just need to show your tickets on your phone or wherever, or if you've printed them out, just show them, and then that's fine. We're all good to go. And then obviously, hopefully there'll be more people turning up on the day. Yeah, I'll be outside the station, where you'll see me outside the station. As I say, I'll be holding this up for anyone that's interested in coming along on the day. I'll just be holding that, so you'll see me anyway outside the station. It won't actually, I'll be outside the actual station building on the car park side of the station. That's great, Ray. Cheers. Thanks for the support. We'll see you on Saturday. Guarantee you'll have a great day. You'll be, as I say, remember and try and wear some maybe soft shoes, like good walking shoes. Both days, the tours will probably, walking tours will probably run for about 2.5 hours or something like that. Can stop along the way to get drinks along the way. There are shops right in the town centre where water, Coke, anything like that will be able to be bought from there. So keep your questions coming in. Got any more questions? I'll answer some as soon as I see them on the screen. Anything to do with the cast, the crew, the films, the TV series, production side of things, filming locations, my books, or the events like my walking tour at the weekend, or future events. Just post them up and I'll answer them for you. Which film was it, Ray? If you tell me what film, if you're talking about where it crosses over our central reservation and does a U-turn on it, that's from Holiday on the Buses. So yeah, I know where that is. That's on St Asaph Road and just south of the small town of Rudland and Denbighshire. If that's where you're thinking about. Or if you're thinking about the one with the lay-by, which where Arthur gets his driving lessons. That's in the village of Shenley, which is about 2 miles northeast of Borehamwood on Rectory Lane. That's where that is. I don't know if those are the ones that you're thinking of, but just post up if they aren't, if you know what I mean. If it's from the films, I've already found it, and they never done any filming in Welham Green because all of the filming locations are near enough being cracked. The only ones from the filming locations is the only ones from the filming locations that haven't been found are the goods depot from Holiday on the Buses, which was believed to be on the old site of the old studios that were demolished. Part of the studios were demolished in Elstree. Or failing that, that's about it for the ones that haven't been found, if you see what I mean. If it's is it the location where you see the sidecar split, Ray? When the sidecar splits and runs away, that's at a triangular thing, and that's out at the Shenley Triangle, which is just along from Rectory Lane and Pound Lane and Mims Lane, sorry, and Boreham Wood. So there's it's probably that location that you're thinking of. It's a rural location. That was known locally as the Shenley Triangle because they filmed a heck of a lot there. They filmed stuff like the Avengers and the Saint and stuff like that around that area. All of those were, of course, Elstree productions. Yeah, that is that one that I'm talking about. Yeah, it's definitely that location then. That's in Mims Lane and Boreham Wood. No, sorry, Shenley, sorry. So if you look into my videos on if you go onto the if you've subscribed, just go into the all my videos I've got here and look at the ones for the on the buses film and look through that, and it crops up on that and it tells you exactly where it is with our now and then photograph, if you see what I mean. So any more questions, keep them coming in. The questions have dried up a bit, so I'll give it maybe another 5 minutes or so. Hopefully the questions will start coming in again, and I'll answer them. So just keep those questions coming in. I'll answer them as soon as I see them. Which depot cheater? If you're talking about the depot and the spin-off films, then it was Soundstage 5 at Elstree Studios. That was what the depot was, and it was an actual soundstage. And the inside of it was absolutely converted into look like on the TV series. Externally, it was Eastern Nationals depot and Wood Green, but internally it was filmed back at the studios. So any of the shots that you see of the bus with Stan and Jack getting out of it, and then he banter with Blakey and all that, was all studio set. That was done so they would film the bus heading into the depot in Wood Green, and then it would cut to the next scene that you would see, like the bus stopping and Stan and Jack getting out and all of that. That was actually on a studio set at Wembley Studios. Wembley Studios from Series 1 to Series 6. And then Series 7, the bus depot set was in the South Bank Studios for Series 7. The Series 1 to 6, the Wembley Studios, they were an older set of studios. They were actually better for on the buses because you could drive the double-decker, low-deckers in through the double bay doors that they had at the back of the set, or right onto the studio set, whereas the studios at South Bank, the bay doors weren't tall enough. So the way that they had to get around that was they had to use a similar shaped single decker bus and then lower from a hoist, lower a false double decker onto the top of it so that it looked like a double decker bus parked here. That's because the bay doors weren't big enough at the newer South Bank studios that they moved to for Series 7. obviously the cast needs to be built up, Stuart. So yeah, the Reg was the one that they had in mind straight away for the part of. That's who the whole series was written for. Was Reg Varney, because they knew him, they'd worked with great success in the drag trade in the early '60s. So when they began writing the series, they knew it was the part for Stan was Reg Varney straight away. So that one was set in stone. The rest obviously were cast that were pulled in from various sources that they had. Stuart Allen had worked on the show Mrs. Wilson's Diaries, which had small parts for Bob Grant and Stephen Lewison, so he put them forward for the parts and on the buses. Anna Karen had been in a part in a lesser successful Wolf and Chesney sitcom, so that's how they got the wind of her. The only other parts that they weren't certain that when they were casting that was offered to somebody else was the part of Blakey. Sorry, so initially the part of Blakey was offered to Dudley Foster, but Dudley Foster, they didn't get back to him. He was going through a bit of a rough patch, I think, there, or maybe a year or two afterwards, he actually committed suicide, I think, or something like that, Dudley Foster. And so then the parts of Blakey and Jack, Stuart Allen put forward Bob Grant and Stephen Lewis for that. Part of of Olive obviously went to Anna Karen. There wouldn't have been many people that would have wanted that anyway because of the sort of like the dumbed down character that it was. But Anna got the part for that, and Doris was always earmarked as the role of mum by Reg. She had seen her on a stage show. Him and the writers have went to see her in a stage show, and I think he touches on it. I think it's in the "This Is Your Life" that he done, and he said, "That's my mum" or something like that when he was watching her in a stage show. So Doris was always the first pick for the mum as well. Hope that answers your question. And Michael Robbins, I'm not sure where he got him from. It was through, I think it was Michael. I think Stuart Allen says that he's seen him in an episode of a Harry Wolf sketch or something like that, and thought he would be ideal for the part. So that's how Michael Robbins got the part. Although around the time of On the Buses coming into being, there was another hit sitcom that was just starting out as well called The Dustbin Men. Now, around that time, Michael had an offer on the table to be in The Dustbin Men or On the Buses. So he had two offers on the table. This was told to me by his widow, Hal Dyer. So he had waited a long time for sort of offers and long-term big roles in a TV series. He had loads and loads of parts, but just in a one-off, like The Saint, The Avengers, Harry Worth, things like that. But this was our whole part in our series, if you know what I mean. But he got two of those coming. He said, so I think Al said they were like buses that two came along at once. So you had the chance of the Dustbin Men or On the Buses, and he chose On the Buses. And remember Hal saying to me that it's clear that he had made the right choice. Of course, it's probably down to geographically as well, because obviously he had married Hal by this time. The Dustbin Men was a Granada series, so it would have been filmed up in Manchester. So we had a long trek from living in London to go all the way up to Manchester to film and then come back again. Whereas On the Buses was London weekend, so that probably suited anyway. Yeah, I've met lots of the cast, not the main cast, just Anna from the main cast. Obviously, since I've been obviously doing my writing and all of that, and organising these events. That's where I've met a lot of the cast through stuff like that. I went to Stephen's funeral, got invited to Stephen's funeral, but never actually met him. But Anna Karen, yes, I've met Doris's daughters, met Michael's wife, who sadly passed away herself now. Also met Harry Field, who sadly passed now as well. John Lyons, Maureen Sweeney, Sandra Bryant, Andrea Lawrence, Patricia Clapton, Pamela Condell, um, Patricia Clapton, Avril Gaynor, Cheryl Hall, um, Nina West, Jules Walter, um, Michael Slater, Wayne Westthorpe, Adam Rhodes, Carolee Donahue, Annette Long, Brenda Gogan, Helen Fraser. So there's a heck of a lot. There's other ones like obviously the writers: Lonnie Wolf, Ronnie Chesney, Stuart Allen, the producer, um, um, Roger Ferris, the musical director of the first spin-off film, Pat Gavin, who done the cartoon sketch for the Series 7 of On the Buses, a couple of runners, Brian Reynolds and Phil Campbell, who worked on the first two spin-off films. There's a lot more than that. I just can't think of them right now. It's probably up to around between 40 and 50 of them I've probably met. Yeah, that was why Ronnie Wolf and Ronnie Chesney stopped writing the episodes, because they moved over to the States to help in the production of Lots of Luck, as I worked on it as like advisors. But don't go watching it expecting it to be like On the Buses, because it's made to appeal to, first of all, it's made to appeal to the American audience. So what Americans find funny or found funny, it's still the case, is find funny. It's totally different to the British humour. So the humour's different, and the setup's slightly different as well, because obviously over there they don't have double-decker buses with conductors and all of that. So the character of Stan actually worked in the lost property department at a bus depot, so it's not got the input of buses and things like that that you get from On the Buses. Oh, I wouldn't know. It's too many times. A lot of the times I'm dipping in and out of them, watching certain scenes from certain things, just for my own sort of like for filming locations and all that. I'll dip into certain scenes for hunting down locations and all that. But I've seen them lots and lots of times, too many to sort of count. Not to be made as a series, Stuart, but it was sold to 66 countries around the world, I think it was, something like that. In terms of its viewing, where it was viewed in, so that's like 66 countries around the world it was actually shown in. So you can see it was a real global phenomenon, if you see what I mean. So keep your questions coming in. I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen. Well, it was in the first half of the seventh series. The reason behind it wasn't, and all of it was because, in the lead up to it, it was obviously you'd have to go through medicals, and his doctor had warned him he needed to rest or risk a fatal heart attack. Reg had a history of heart trouble. He had a major heart attack in 1966. And since then, like 67, 68, he was doing a series called Beggar My Neighbor. And then he went on to do, I think, the TV adaptation of, might have been The Best Pair of Legs in the Business. Then he done 6 series on the buses from 1969 up until late 1972. He also done the 3 spin-off films. He also done Go for a Take in 1972. He also done the spin-off film, or he also done this film version of The Best Pair of Legs in the Business as well. He also done his own Red Varney review show. It was like a little sort of like variety show where they would have sort of like do comedies, he would do sort of like musical sketches and stuff like that. So that was a heck of a lot that he done between having a major heart attack in late 66. So by the time it came down to late 72, the doctors warned him he either had to rest or risk a fatal heart attack. So the options open to him was he either done all of Series 7 and gave Holiday on the Buses a miss to have his enforced rest, or he done half of Series 7 and missed the second half so that he had a rest before doing the Holiday on the Buses, which is the option he chose. So any more questions, keep them coming in. I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, Malden Road it was, 2 Malden Road Way. You couldn't exactly see the Queen Vic. It's a bit of a thing. All you could see was the railway bridge, which was like the Bridge Street, the bridge that went across the East End of Set. Nah, absolutely not. No remakes for me. Oh, the set's still there, Ray, but they are rebuilding it in the southern end of the studio complex. They're rebuilding it in another area, I think. Something to do with because they're wanting to do it in high definition or something like that. I think that's why they're moving it and rebuilding it. But for you, Ian, nah, definitely not. Remakes just do not work. Remakes are garbage, and that I'll leave it at that. In general, I can't remember the last time I've sat and watched a remake and said, "Oh, that's actually quite good." Yeah. As I said, Stuart, I've met Wayne Westport. We came to one of, I think it was the event organised, and I think it was the last one before the lockdown. So that would now be 2019, I think, summer 2019. But no, he never carried on working in the acting. He was only a baby at the time, don't forget, when he done Mutiny on the Buses. I think he done something like he done a baked beans advert or something like that, and shortly after that. But after that, he never went into acting. He done his schooling and then took up a totally different career. It wasn't in the acting and trade. Worst episode, it's normally with me, I find the worst episodes are the ones that were overplaying the negative emotions. Like, so the ones that didn't go down well with me, I would say the one that strikes me as the worst is a visit. So that's the one with like Blakey's mum in it from Series 7, or failing that, it would be Olive's divorce, which Anna spends the whole episode crying in it. So that's another downer. Another episode that doesn't sit well with me is an earlier one in Series 4. That's the one with, I think it's Not Tonight, it's called. It's the one where the canteen employee, Stella, she fleeces Stan of all his wages and then gets a hired up job working as a secretary for the manager, and she gives him the brush off. That's and so it always tends to be ones that are awash with negative sort of like emotions, if you see what I mean, for me. Not with all the cast in it. I don't think Gardening Time was a terrible episode, as it goes. Not the worst episode, anyway. But going back to you, Ian, stage play, not with all the cast in it, no. Bob, Stephen, and Anna done one called, was it called Busman's Holiday? Was that something like that? And Michael, Doris, and Anna done On the Buses, A New Life. And that was like they filmed that, they done it in Canada other than that stage show. And I think it was 1985 or 87 or something, they done that, where it was supposed to be out and they moved over to Canada. But not with all the total cast together. No, they never done a stage show on the buses. Yeah, I think that's good to see. It just shows you how much fun they had making the show. It's good to see that the actors themselves got so much fun out of doing it, as well as what they were giving to the audience, if you see what I mean. I mean, the best of them cops, you see David Jason doing it in a few times in Only Fools and Horses. Not like I say, Ian, I've said it before on here and on Facebook. That was the whole idea of the writers. They weren't going to say what the operation was because you could use the gag time and time again in many different situations. it would never have been a running gag if they'd have said when Arthur first brought it up and saying, "Oh, that was only a hernia" or something like that. The gag would have been dead, and that would have been put out to pasture straight away. So the idea was, don't mention what it is, just hint at it, and then we can use it time and time again for different parts of the body, for different things that Arthur's doing or what he can't do. See, so that was the greatness of the writer's thinking, if you see what I mean. My favourite character cheater was Arthur. Just thought it was great the way that he delivered his lines, and they had the great facial expressions to go with it. I think he would have worked really well under Gerald Thomas, who directed on the Carry On films, because he had his way of directing was he wanted the actor to deliver the punchline and then pull a facial expression. Well, Michael Robbins had that done to a T, and on the buses he could pull that off with a little wince or a flinchy or something like that, and that was great. And that, I think Gerald Thomas would have been great working with that as well. probably probably Foggy Night, for the simple reason that I would just love to see how the authentic, how they made it look so authentic for the bus coming through the fog, because that was all done on the studio set as well. That wasn't out in any countryside anywhere. That was all just done with a smoke machine. Um, so would have loved to have seen how that was created. But sitting in I'd love to have sat in the audience watching how they actually created that scene, that recreated it in a studio environment. If you see what I mean. So keep your questions coming in. I'll answer them as soon as I see them on the screen. Anything to do with the actors, the actresses, the production crew, the films or TV series or filming locations. I think it would have just been advertised at the studios itself. They would have had like a reception desk area, like with the like billboards advertising tickets for sale, I would imagine. Not sure if they actually advertised them in like magazines or anything like that. They may have done specialist magazines like Stage and all of that, which was specialized in those sorts of things. But we'd imagine most of them were all bought through the actual studio, if you see what I mean. Nah, not on the buses, Ian. Nah. I would say the best set was the one that lasted the longest. So that was the one, Sirius 3, 4, 5, basically, and 6. So that ran for like 4 series. So shows that they had come across a formula that worked best for the filming. I'm sure. I don't know. I think I've seen ones elsewhere though where that's actually got prices on them, which would tell me that some of them they actually had to pay for. Could be wrong though, but I'd need to try and dig around and find out where I remember seeing that ticket. could be wrong, Ray. Don't quote me on that. I might just be, that might be something that's sort of like sometimes your mind plays tricks on you. So I mean, you could very well be right. I wasn't around in those days. I wasn't even. I was what? Well, tell a lie. I was like about um, 3 months old when it first aired, the very first episode. So I mean, I wouldn't know. You might very well know more than what I do, Ray, on that front of things, if you see what I mean. I did then run in my Google there anyway. I come across like one for the when it was the very first episode, and it does say that you're invited to attend. So obviously that was a free. When you get an invite, you don't pay for it. So you could be right there, but yeah, I've done that many times, Ian, because I organise events up there. I've done about 5 events up in Pontins. But most of the times now I stay in the Beaches Hotel, which is where all the cast stayed in. The main cast stayed in the Beaches Hotel. I think it was called some other name, the Britannia or something like that. It was called. But anyway, yeah, it's not really changed at all. Basically, you could go up there today, and it's easy enough to spot all the locations as well because it's not had any structural changes done to it. As I say, I've been up there about maybe 5 to 10 times. Obviously for organising the event, holding the event, and also went up there sometimes for photographing from filming locations purposes. Yeah, it's the same with anything, though, isn't it, Ian? I mean, there's tobacco advertising is banned nowadays. You know, I mean, if you remember back to Formula One had a lot of their teams were sponsored by tobacco companies. Not anymore. Like you had Marlboro, McLaren, you had John Player Special, Lotus. Of course, that's not the case now. Well, it's hard to really gauge the success of TV episodes because they're not sold in any way, shape, or form. You can see how successful films are by how they do at the box offices, if you know what I mean. You got a TV series, all you can go on them as viewing figures. So on their buses was at pinnacle around about Series 3, Series 4, when the films were just about to start. That was like when they were beginning to top the charts and get to #1 and the TV ratings. But how do you gauge that against how much a film took at the box office? It's hard to really say, if you know what I mean. As for the props or costumes, any of the props or costumes still around, then it's not. You got to remember, it's on the buses here. It's no like you've got Dorothy's slippers out of The Wizard of Oz, which was our blockbuster film and all that, where these things are kept. Whereas other stuff tends to just get flung away after a length of time, especially as well with costumes and all of that. May very well have came from LWT's costume department, but LWT doesn't exist anymore. So what happened to all those costumes then? Anyway, I know that the baby doll Nighty exists because Anna says that when they ended on the buses ended, they did ask if they wanted to keep any items like any costumes and all of that. Anna took that. Now I'm presuming that Stephen Lewis didn't take his conductor uniform and any of that, and neither did Reg take his uniform. I know that as well, because if you watch old, more recent stuff that they were in, Stephen done a lot of the times he sort of like played Blakey like in the Generation Game and things like that, and then I done publicity stunts in his uniform. But if you look at it, it's not a Luxon district or a Town and District one. It's just a rehashed one. Where they've got it from, I don't know. It's just like a normal plain black Mac without any insignia from the TV series or films on. So obviously he didn't keep his uniform, and neither did Reg, because Reg a couple of times done things where he was dressed in his uniform, like for the interview we talked about earlier, and it's certainly nothing to do with the TV. There's no insignia on it from Luxon District or Town and District. So that was just a cap, a busman's cap he had on, and a black jacket. Like, as I said earlier, the main cast stayed at the hotel on the seafront behind the Pontons. That would have been Doris, Michael, Anna, Reg, Bob, and Stephen. The crew would have had would have been probably more than likely stayed in the chalets. They would have had a whole square where they done most of the filming there, where the Butler chalet was and Mavis's chalet. It was all in one square. That was the area that was where they done all the filming. So that would have been booked out by the film for filming and for the crew to stay in as well, no doubt. Well, that wouldn't be. We normally tend to organise them for around about this time of the year. There was plans to maybe have one this year. Way back last year, we were talking about it, but obviously because of the current situation with COVID and all that, it's not really practical to have celebrities up there. We're still at a vulnerable age and all of that, so that was put back. Obviously, we'll discuss the idea of maybe trying again next year, so it'll be probably September 2022. But of course, that's for further down the line. No, I don't really sort of like collect a lot of memorabilia, if you know what I mean. I've got one or two bits and bobs, but I wouldn't really classify them as memorabilia, if you know what I mean. Like I've got a picture over there. But this is readily available. There's an artist, the same artist that designed my book cover, the A to Z. That's on the bus's picture, but that's sort of like not exactly memorabilia, if you know what I mean. It's just a photo, if you know, artist's drawing. But you can get them readily online at his website, which is Steve Little Art, it's called. I'm just trying to think of anything else. I've got my books, obviously. I've got things that I've made and I sell in my shops and things like that, like stuff like this. It's not diorama, it's called a lithophane, but you need a light on it to see actually what it is. It's hard to really show what it comes out like once you've seen it. But that's a Bob Grant one. I'm just trying to see. I don't know when it's really. You need to shine a light from behind it to get the full effect of it. So, like, there's another one, and that's got all the cast and crew on there as well. But you need to shine a light on it from behind, if you see what I mean, before you get the full effects of it. But it's not really as such as what we really call memorabilia, if you see what I mean. Yeah, they're all still for sale. That's I'll just type the names in for them. So you've got So that's the 4 titles of the books. If you want to look for them at all, they're all there. That's in order that they came out, like the complete story, which is that book, but it's not. It won't look like that now if you see it, because this is no longer in print. The hardback, they've now done it as a paperback, so it's a paperback copy. You can get it in, whereas this is the original hardback that it came out in, but it's now only available in paperback. But it's exactly the same book, exactly the same amount of stuff in it. Right, this is my own personal copy with all the. There you go. Look at the signatures it's got in there. A fair few signatures. The quiz book, I don't have a copy of that to show you. The A to Z of On the Buses. That's it there. That's what you're looking for. As you can see that artwork looks exactly, that is done by the same person that done my photo, the picture over there. Steve Lilly, his name is. He's got a website called Steve Little Art. He also does things like mugs for you as well, which is, here's one mug I've got there as well. An On the Buses mug. And that's the film and locations book there. Hi, Martin. Who of the cast have I met in person? As I said before, I said earlier, I went through them all. I've met Anna Karen, Andrea Lawrence, Alan Curtis, Michael Slater, John Lyons, Pamela Condell, Patricia Clapton, Olivia Breeze, Helen Fraser, Cheryl Hall, Avril Gaynor, Andrea Lawrence, I think I said Andrea Lawrence, Jeanette, what's her name? That's gone. Jeanette Wild, that's it. Nina West, Wayne Westthorpe, Adam Rhodes, Carolee Donahue, Annette Long, Maureen Sweeney, Sandra Bryant, Kate Williams, Stephen Lewis's nephew, Peter, who was in an episode, Stuart Allen, the producer, and his daughter Lucy Allen, who was in the same episode as Peter. That was a kids' outing. Also, let's see, there's a whole load more that I can. I've spoke to on the phone Gavin Campbell. I've spoke to on the phone who else spoke to on the phone? But I've also met Roger Ferris, musical director, the 2 writers, Ronnie Wolf, Ronnie Chesney, Stuart Allen, the producer, Pat Gavin, who designed the graphics for the Series 7 of On the Buses, Phil Campbell and Phil Campbell and Brian Reynolds, a couple of Hammer runners who worked on the first 2 films. Let's see now. Helen Fraser, did I say? Deirdre Costello. So you can see there the amount that there is. There's more than that. Jules Walter, Harry Fielder. More names will come to me as well. So you're getting the gist there of the amount that I've actually spoke to as well. Hal Dyer, of course, who's sadly no longer with us. It's probably more than that I can't remember just off the top of my head. Somewhere between, I'd say, 30 and 50 of the that I've met. Of course, some of them are sort of like worked more on the production side of things, like the writers. I've met George Layton as well, who wrote episodes of On the Buses. Brenda Gogan, that's another one. Keep your questions coming in. If you've got any more questions, just post them up. I'll answer them for you. So just keep your questions coming in. Yeah, cheers, Stuart. I think I'm going to call it a night now as well. Seems the questions are all dried up now. But thanks to everyone who's popped in and asked questions, and we'll be back again. If you're still around here, I'll see you on Saturday. Hope you're looking forward to that. Saturday and Sunday. Should be a great day. So thanks for everyone that turned up, and hope you have a good night. Hope to see you, some of you in Boreham Wood on Saturday. Feel free to pop along. You can pay on the day for your tickets. 12 o'clock, train station in Boreham Wood, and you'll be able to get your tickets from me at the station, okay? It's £15, and that covers 2 days of locations tours, and hope to see you there, okay? Bye for now.